Molly Barnes, and I'm the director of the Mississippi Heritage Trust and mighty proud to be so. And it is my pleasure to welcome you here this evening for our 23rd annual membership meeting in Pecha Kucha, or Pecha Kucha, however you want to say it. At the end, it's the same thing. It's a lot of fun, fast information from some pretty interesting people. I'm going to start off this evening by thanking everyone that's come to our conference today. We've had a great day of learning here at Podfellows. And thank our sponsors. If you'll see the signs around the room, we have a number of folks who helped us put on this conference, and we couldn't have done it without them. So thank you so much to all of our sponsors. And our speakers who donated their time to be here with us tonight and share their wealth of knowledge about historic preservation and what's going on around our state. So, wow, we've had some phenomenal speakers. And if you know one of them, please thank them. If you are one of them, thank you. What a team we've had that put on this spread tonight and made sure everything happened for the conference. I think Erica Steve needs a rousing round of applause for that delicious meal. She just whips things out like that on a regular basis. Pretty good person to know and have as a friend. Amber Lombardo is going to be one of our speakers tonight and is part of MHT's Northern Office in Collierville, Tennessee. We have two wonderful volunteers from USM, Gabriel and Thomas, who helped us out tonight. Thank you guys. We could not have done it without you. It was so nice to have some young backs. And Jonathan McGowan, who just showed up here tonight, is going to film our Pecha Kucha presentation so we can all go back and enjoy it later. Also from USM, we've had some great help and friendships there.
Now, Mama, you can explain what that is, those Pecha Kucha.
Sure, I can do that. But before I do, I think we need another rousing round of applause for Charles and Anita Price. They made us feel so welcome in this gorgeous historic building that they restored out of so much love and caring for their community, and it just means a lot to us to get to share it with y'all. So thank you very much. We have the mayor came and joined us tonight. How about that, Mayor Dupree? Thank you for being here with us tonight. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have truly drank the Kool-Aid and live in a historic house and big preservationists, so thank you for that. I have several members of the board of directors from the Mississippi Heritage Trust here tonight. Joyce Dees came down from Tupelo. Brad Reeves from Jackson. Martha Duvall, who was welcoming y'all at the door and probably can go ahead and come on up now. And Stuart Rockoff from Jackson as well, director of the Mississippi Humanities Council and a great friend to us. So you asked a little bit about Pecha Kucha. The origin is a group of architects in Tokyo got together for these evenings of discussion about design projects. And the problem was that architects can tend to go on. And so what they decided to do was to design a format, a presentation format, where information is delivered in a very fast, concise manner. And they called it Pecha Kucha. And I stand by my pronunciation because Carlton Wall of Tupelo, who speaks Japanese, told us that was how it was pronounced. Other folks say Pecha Kucha. But either way, it's a lot of fun, and it's really fast, and it means chitter-chatter in Japanese. And so our Pecha Kucha speakers tonight were tasked with presenting a story that's important to them, and it's from the heart. And I can't wait to hear what they have to say. But before we get into our Pecha Kucha, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our fearless leader, Susan Higgs, who's been president of the Mississippi Heritage Trust for this past very eventful year. So here you go.
Thank you so much, Lolly. And as she was thanking Erica, Lolly, spectacular job. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I truly don't know where we'd be without you, so we certainly appreciate you. So I don't know if, I know we have some members here tonight and we have some guests as well, but generally for our membership meetings, we're pretty casual. We don't like to let a lot of business get in the way of a good time. So really the only order of business that we have tonight is nominating our new officers and our new board members. So I'm going to invite Brad Reeves up, who is the chair of our nominating committee. and we will go ahead and take care of some business.
Like Susan said, we'll keep it short and get right to the point. At this point, want to present the slate from the nominating committee. To serve as president this coming year, Brian Pugh. Serve as vice president, Doy Sees. Serve as treasurer, Stephanie Stewart. Serve as secretary, Martha Duvall. Also, the new board members presented are Claire Cothran of Natchez, Leah Kemp of Starkville, Andy O'Brien of Water Valley, Christian Preuss of Ocean Springs, Brother Rogers of Starkville, Robert Sarnio of Oxford, Janice Sykes of Meridian, and Eustace Wynn of Benoit. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the officers and slate of nominees for the board.
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? All right. The motion passes, and we will adopt the slate of officers. Thank you all for that. Also, this time, while I'm at the podium, I wanted to take the time to thank our outgoing president, Ms. Susan Higgs. She's done an amazing job. Susan's energy and just dedication to this organization is very apparent. I think it was very fitting to have the Preservation Conference here in Hattiesburg as she wraps up her year as president. She's done a lot of amazing things for this organization, just the exposure that she's brought in serving on the board and as president, and also just the economic vitality of the group. Just to be honest, it's a nonprofit, and these days it's not easy, but she's had a lot of great ideas of ways to keep this organization looking good financially and set for the future. So again, Susan, we want to, on behalf of the board, say thank you for all that you've done. We're not going to let you get very far away, but thank you for serving as president, and we do have a gift to thank you for your time and dedication.
Oh, thank you. Aww.
Thank you, Susan.
And before Brad gets too far, that was very sweet. But Brad Reeves, who has been on our board, I think now 7 years, we kept him on for an extra year because he was just so hardworking, and he's always been that rock of our organization. If there was anything that anyone needed at MHT, he was always there, and he truly lives the life of a preservationist. You've just been amazing. We've had a transition during the time that you were here, and you made it go so smoothly, and we thank you for that. So we also have a gift for you. Here you go, Brad. So again, even though he's rolling off the board, he's still serving as chair of our 10 Most event, so he's not going very far. We don't. And I think, let's see. And we have a little gift for you as well, Brad. And I think we're just going to move right along into our Pecha Kucha. So we're starting with me. So we're going to set the bar really low. So I know everybody's been talking about how does this work. So we'll just see how it goes. So let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. So one of the things, we're talking about how we want to tell stories, and when I was talking to Lolly about this, what I kind of wanted to do is, it's starting now, okay, is basically take you on a tour through MHT for the last year. I've been very privileged to be a part of MHT. One of the things that we do is we're advocating for preservation, obviously. So 2 of our most well-recognized events are our Heritage Awards and also our 10 Most events. And we do those on alternating years. So our tour is actually starting at our last membership event and conference. We held our last event in Tupelo at the home of Bill and Joyce Dees at their lovely home right here. Then we held our conference, our Pecha Kucha, and ended with our Heritage Awards ceremony in this great old gin in Tupelo. And just a teaser for tomorrow, one of last year's awards winners, Rob Tatum, will be presenting tomorrow. And also, MHT has begun a new venture in the last year when we received a grant from Mississippi Humanities Council. We launched our Miss Mod program. Now, what I've learned about modern architecture is that it is much more endangered than architecture that predates it. So with Miss Mod, what we wanted to do is basically create a community that could show their appreciation for modern architecture. So this is from our tour in Meridian. Back in December, we went to lots of modern places there. We toured 4 buildings that were designed by Mississippi architect Chris Risher. And I just want to say, I'm not an architect, I'm not a historian, but I have seen a lot in my life, traveled to quite a few places, and I can recognize when something is special. The architecture of this gentleman is truly special, and it deserves to be saved. Now, I mention this because the Meridian Police Department has been targeted for destruction. So those of us in the preservation community really feel like this is something that has to be addressed and are addressing this. So these are just some of the buildings that we toured while we were in Meridian. So I kind of wanted to show you some slides of that. Our Miss Mod website, Lolly's gotten a bit obsessive with the website. We've had quite a few visitors for it. It's only been launched for a short period of time, but it's already had over 6,000 visitors. 11,000. So, that's right. So clearly we are not alone, and we've hit upon something that people are truly interested in. So along with the Love Miss Mod website and the Meridian Tour, MHT also took Miss Mod another step further, and we added a Miss Mod reception and a home tour in Jackson. So in February, thanks to our hardworking Erica Speed, MHT hosted a party in the home of Risa and Jack Moriarty, and then followed with a home tour the next day. It was a spectacular success. For the first time since I've been a part of MHT, we actually had a waiting list for an event. So it was an amazing night. And then the home tour the next day, we weren't sure how many people were going to actually attend. I think we had sold something like 20 tickets the day before. But we had over 350 people through these homes. So clearly there was an interest in this. And for a first-time event, it was extremely successful. It certainly exceeded our expectations. We also heard buzz from people that missed this tour were very upset. And then we also heard from other communities, like Charlottesville, Virginia, and Palm Springs, that they should follow Mississippi's example and do things like this as well. And another really fun project that we have worked on is a children's art project. Obviously, I'm talking really fast. But if you want to see any slides of our tours and things that I'm talking about, you can go to our website and see this. So with our last 10 Most event, they decided to decorate with children's art at the event. Again, a huge hit. So these are some of the pieces of art that were submitted. And last year, our incoming president, Brian Pugh, had the idea to use these art pieces in a calendar. His talented wife, Dominique, donated her graphic design skills, and then Brian also enlisted the governor and the first lady to be a part of the project as well. So this year, every MHT member received one of these really adorable calendars. We do have some of these calendars here, so if anyone would like to take one to enjoy, we would encourage you to do that. So also looking forward, this year marks the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. On August 29th, MHT will be hosting a Save My Plates event, marking the anniversary of this event. Then also on October 22nd, we will have our 10th 10 Most event. Our plan is to have the event at Lowry House. This is MHT, if you're not familiar with this, it's our own long-enduring preservation project. So for those of you who are not familiar with Lowry House, it was once the home of Governor Lowry. So our hopes is for the 10 Most event, we're going to have it here. As you can see from the outside, it's in really good shape. I think I took this picture in fall. Still has a lot of work. Work is progressing nicely, but it is our intention to hopefully have this preservation project of ours done in the next year. And this is from our Miss Mon reception that we had. This is Lolly and Erica with Risa Moriarty. And I just wanted to say, Erica and Lolly do such great work for MHT. We certainly appreciate your passion and commitment, and I just want to thank you for all that you do. And thank you for all of you who are here tonight. We appreciate people that are our members, people that come to our events, our sponsors, and those of you that are just out there preserving your communities. Thank you so much.
Maybe it was just because my picture was in it, but I love that. Thank you. I think Susan set the bar pretty high. Mike, you're up next. Mike Carroll comes to us today as Alderman for the City of Ashland, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Well, I'm not sure when this clock is going to start, but hopefully before it does, I will introduce myself. My name is Mike Carroll. I'm the City Alderman in Ashland, Mississippi, and I thank you so much for inviting me. It's quite a privilege and such a pleasure to be here. I'm also hoping that my glasses and the light over here is going to be enough for me to be able to see the presentation that I have for you. That's it right there. You betcha. Are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, sir. I'm going to tell you about the old man, the way it was, is, and can be. Close your eyes and imagine the dates can span anywhere from the late 1800s to the mid-1900s. A wagon, truck, car, even a tractor pulls onto the town square. A family steps out. Dad heads to the local hardware store. Mom, with the youngest child on her hip, looks down the street and sees the local drummer. Her eyes begin to sparkle as visions of their goods dance in their mind. The excitement of buying fabric for a new dress has been long overdue. The eldest son, in his worn overalls, is drawn to the local cafe for a much-anticipated ice cream. His little sister being pulled so fast her little legs can barely keep up. The family has come to town. The square is buzzing with people, other families replenishing their supplies, food, seeds, farming needs. It is Saturday in Ashland, and the old-timers sit on benches in front of Tipler's cheap cash store. A mother steps out on the side of the square. A pair of shoes wrapped in brown paper comes from the Crawford store for her oldest son. People catching up on the news under the big oaks on the courthouse lawn. It's an exciting time. It's Saturday in town, and the old man sitting on the grassy throne in the middle of it all smiles. Now close your eyes and imagine you're standing in the same spot your parents, grandparents, even your great-grandparents once stood. It's a new century. There are few stores. Most buildings have been abandoned for many years. There are few vehicles and few people. No children playing in the courthouse lawn anymore. No more benches where the old-timers would sit and catch up on the news. And all that is missing in this scene, like something out of a Western, are the tumbleweeds blowing down the deserted streets. What happened? Where are the people? The old man's eyes fill with tears. Why did they desert him? All across America, small towns are revitalizing their squares, rebuilding what their ancestors built so many years ago. The forgotten buildings are breathing with life again. A little paint on the shops, flowers and benches under the trees, festivals planned for families, to enjoy, officials shaking hands with citizens under the big oaks and on the courthouse lawn, children stepping out of the local cafe with ice cream melting as fast as their little tongues can lap up the sweetness. That is what is happening across America. The old man has been here since 1873 and has seen so much, and is finally beginning here. They no longer need him, he feels. He looks to the north and sees only few buildings occupied as tears begin to swell in his eyes at the point of overflowing like a pond with too much water. He blinks and he looks to the south. The dwellers on that side have been there a long time. They could have moved, but they didn't. He looks to the east and the tears slowly run down his face. Wait, he sees a farmer coming out of the parts store. Hey, there's a new Italian restaurant. The children of the children of the children he watched so many decades ago are trickling back. He still stands there, strong on his grassy throne. The old man is the overseer of a new renaissance. Hard work and new ideas have given way to the attention he deserves. Thanks to fresh people and new ideas given the attention he deserves, thanks to that, life blooms in the beds of the flow beneath his feet. The American pride and state also now sways in the breeze on each corner, but he needs so much more. We can make a difference. There are many, many people that will roll up their sleeves and work hard to make the old man smile again. Revitalizing our square will benefit all. More businesses, more money for the town, more money for activities for us, our families, and our friends. Let's make the old man feel alive again. He deserves better. We deserve better. Our children and our grandchildren deserve better. The old man can wipe away the tears and smile once more. In 2015, what has changed? In a slow process, but we're getting there. Now there are activities coming to the square, festivals, farmers markets. July the 11th will bring back Arts, Beats, and Eats for the second time. September 27th, or thereabout, is the date set for our Harvest Festival. And last year brought about our first farmers market on the courthouse lawn in many, many years. We've been recognized by the state of Mississippi Department of Tourism as a blues recipient due to the native-born Willie Pop Mitchell. Our governor proclaimed June the 7th as Willie Mitchell Day across the state. The Ashland Benton County Historical Preservation Commission and dedicated volunteers have worked hard to obtain funds to purchase the Blues Trail marker that was unveiled and dedicated at the Harvest Festival last year in his honor. Yes, this was a big deal for us. We're not just a dot on the map anymore, as you saw a few minutes ago. In the past 2 years, many people have visited our square for the first time, local and state. They stand on a courthouse lawn and they look up at the old man, and they are in awe of his beauty. No one is not falling down. He's not falling down. And inside is not a disgrace. He can and will be brought back to what he deserves. The only disgrace is his abandonment. Your voice and support is so important, not just for the old man, but for every part of our county. As I stand in front of our restaurant, looking up at the old man, I saw a smile, less tears, and it made me and others feel good. It is our obligation to save and rejuvenate our heritage. Our forefathers will be proud. They worked hard for what we have. They have worked diligently from 1873 up until the present to keep this iconic building still there, still in place. So we hope that you will find in your heart a time to come up and visit our old man.
Thank you, Mike.
about what the future of Benton County Courthouse is going to be. I hope you'll join us for our conference tomorrow. It's going to be one of our case studies. What could be? And Mike Carroll is leading the charge, so you might as well just go ahead and get on board now, because you're going to get on board when we're ready to go. Toby, you're up next. Toby Parker's already kind of given us our marching orders earlier today, told us we need to be tentacles as we work to save our state's historic preservation tax credit, and that's what we're going to be.
Awesome. So, took a different sort of theme with it. I talked to you a lot about how the legislature does things, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the legislature itself, and we'll get it pulled up here. So this is where I work. This is the Mississippi Capitol, and for over a century there have been statesmen and there have been scoundrels, and they each show up there every year for about 120 years to try and do the people's work. And from January to the end of to early April, that's what we're doing. Now we all like to think we're like this, crusading for some grand cause. We're fighting special interests, that we are taking up the cause of the little man to try and bring order, try to bring new things to our state. We all want to summon that statesmanship inside of us, and even I like to think there's a little bit of that. I like to think that's the reason I go up there, is that we try to fight for our city, we try to fight for those causes that are important to us, and we think that we're on a very noble journey. However, if you ask some other people, they may think that it looks like this, that we really are this. Frank Underwood from House of Cards. That someone that is very underhanded, who tries to get his way or her way, no matter the cost. And while you look at someone at the surface level, underneath, they're really trying something else. But away from why we do things, I want to use the rest of my slides and to talk about how state government operates and how possibly we could do this a little better. How can we make this place more efficient and hopefully more effective for you, the taxpayers? Because this is the idea that most people have when they think about the legislature, that we all sit in the back room, smoke some cigars, drink a little scotch. Actually, I haven't graduated to scotch. I'm not important yet enough. But they sit around discussing the finer points of the budget. They decide the last few $1 million. They discuss the finer points of policy. Actually, the scene looks like this during conference weekend. Everyone is jockeying. Everyone is, trying to get at each other. And rarely do we actually have a chance to sit around and say, all these things we're funding, the millions of dollars we're fighting over, we rarely ask ourselves, are we getting results for what we're doing? Are the things that we're funding working? But the even broader question is, are the things that we're funding even designed to work? And how do we get off this hamster wheel? There's got to be a better way of doing budgeting and policy that we know what we're going to get. And so we use this as a case study. This is the Oakland Athletics. They're a baseball team in Oakland, obviously, a very small market team. In 2002, they won their division with a record number of games, the smallest market team. But the problem is, at the end of the season, they lost 3 of their best players, who accounted for like 70% of their homers and RBI. And then what happened is, this guy, their general manager, Billy Beane, had to come up with a better way of forming a team because he didn't have the money to pay a bunch of big players. So he started using data. He started using, instead of homers and RBIs, he used on-base percentage. And by using data, he actually got more wins, more results, with a cast of players that were long considered mediocre. And this story was captured in the movie Moneyball, where Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, had a conversation with his scouts about what is the real problem we're trying to solve. And he decided the real problem was there were rich teams and there were poor teams. Then there was 50 feet of crap, exact quote, and then there was the Oakland A's. All right? So you may be asking yourself, what does the Oakland A's have to do with Mississippi? And why does it even matter? Because we share a similar position as a state as Billy Beane did with the Oakland Athletics. In budgets, there are rich states and there are poor states, and there's 50 feet of crap and there's Mississippi. All right, we're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to state revenue every year. Now, how do we actually get results with that? All right, so every year our position with other states continues to slide. Our educational disparities get larger. Our health outcomes hover at number 1 in the bad stuff and number 50 in the good stuff. Our prison population grows, and all too often we blame it on a lack of resources. All right? But while funding, I believe, is important, maybe sometimes there are sufficient resources. There is sufficient funding out there, but we're just investing in the wrong programs. And if we could come up with a way to better use the tax dollars we have, maybe we could achieve better results, similar to what Billy Bean did with the Oakland Athletics. All right? What if you could know on the front end that by investing X in a program, or planting an acorn in this case, and by carrying out that program in a proven fashion, or watering and fertilizing the acorn, that you could expect better policy outcomes and better results, or no tree? What if you could do that? But there is a model for this kind of proactive approach to policy and budgeting as it comes to us from the state of Washington. This model was later adopted by the Pew Charitable Trust as a nationwide model, which is how I got involved in it in our Appropriations Committee. Washington found themselves spending way too much money on corrections and prisons and not achieving any real benefit or real reduction in recidivism. So what did they do? They started using data. They used data from literature, best practices, and evidence-based policy. They found what worked. From data, they could estimate what kind of benefit they could come from spending a certain amount of resources on a certain program if that program was implemented with fidelity to the proven model. It became a cost-benefit ratio that truly worked, and it worked for them. Their correction system improved, and that model of using data, evidence, and cost-benefit analysis is a model that everyone's using in the country, and we're starting to use it in Mississippi. Just this year and last year, we reformed some criminal justice laws to do more community-based stuff instead of locking people up like this. And not only have we done that in prison populations, we've also done it in health. This year, for the first time, we invested $1 million on an infant mortality program, and we're embarking on this evidence-based approach to fight infant mortality through decreasing preterm births, through proven approaches in smoking cessation, access to a drug called 17P, and ending early elective deliveries. And by doing those kinds of things, whether in corrections or health or education or you name it, or maybe a little historic preservation, by adjusting where we spend our money, how we spend it, we can make this place, the state capitol, where I work, more efficient, but most importantly, more equipped to meet the needs of regular Mississippians. Thanks.
So now I guess we know how you got elected. That was very inspiring. Steve, you're up next. Steve Hendricks. We're going to take it from the big picture of politics to maybe something a little bit more specific and close to our heart. Steve, take it away.
Anyway, before my 20-second start, I'm Steve Hendricks. I'm an attorney from Jackson, and I'm going to tell you where you need to spend a few dollars to invest. So that's Anyway, I want to talk about the historic tax credit bill, which is House Bill 155 that died in conference, along with this picture. And this is a slide that shows you how far-reaching the program has been throughout the state. The blue counties are counties that have had completed historic tax credit programs since inception in 2006. And the other counties were counties that have programs that are underway. There's 10 counties that have programs underway at different levels, and the fact that the legislature did not increase the cap from 60 million to 100 million puts all those projects in jeopardy. They're probably all not going to finish. This shows you what the program has done since inception, and this is how the legislature actually didn't work, because when the lieutenant governor was told that there was 53 million up to the 60 million cap, he thought it was going to last another year. In essence, it lasted 60 days. There's been that many projects that have been approved in the last 60 days that put us at the 60 million cap. That doesn't include the pipeline of projects that are underway and going forward. This slide shows you where we are against the 60 million cap versus the ones that are in the pipeline that are currently under construction or currently in the financing state. There's approximately 82 million worth of tax credit projects out there, so we busted the cap by 20 million. This slide actually shows you where the investments are and how the state's getting return on it. The bottom line would show the amount of historic tax credits. The state's invested 60 million. you get a return of about $240 million in QRE, qualified rehab expenditures, or total investments in the project is about $460 million. These slides actually show projects that are in jeopardy. This project is in Starkville. It's the cotton mill, the old physical plant. It's going to be a conference center with hotel. They were expecting $5.1 million in credits. There's only $500,000 left in the program, so the program is essentially dead. That project will complete this summer, but there's no credits for them. This is the old federal courthouse in Jackson. They have financing. They're ready to start. They've already done a lot of demo. They spent $4 million on the project, but there's nowhere to go because now we're $2.5 million short on funding because there are no state historic tax credits. It's about $3.5 million in total credits. The value of that is about $2.5 million. This is Centennial Plaza in Gulfport, another project where they're expecting to put in a resort hotel right there on Beach Boulevard. The financing's in place. Everything's ready to go, but now we're short again about $2.8 million of historic tax credit funding, which is part of the equity. It's 25% of the cash equity for the project. Without that, it doesn't happen. That's just phase one of that project. Phase two would have the chapel, which is right again on Beach, and a restaurant in the front building. We hope ultimately an entertainment pier, which will be vintage, have like the Ferris wheel on the end and those type things. But this project's in jeopardy. It will not go forward without an increase in the historic tax credit bill at the state level. This is the McRae Center, and this is an interesting project in Jackson. It's going to be a telemedicine program with UMC. Again, everything is in place, financing is in place, but it's been stopped because we can't close the financing because of the uncertainty of the historic tax credit program. In addition to having telemedicine there, it's going to be a data center, and this is going to employ a lot of people at $75,000 a year. So it's jobs, it's economic development. This is the old library in Gulfport, again, another project in jeopardy. CTA's just been awarded and responded to an RFP to make this essentially a bus, bike terminal next to the aquarium site that's been funded. Thank you for that funding from the legislation. Deposit Guarantee Building, downtown Jackson. It's supposed to be, again, financing in place, everything's ready to go. It's 152 residential units right there on the corner. That building's been vacant for several years. And there'll be upscale, very nice apartments, but it can't move forward without, and that credits on that value is about $4.1 million. It's about a $30 million project. The Markham Hotel, again in Gulfport, that one's been struggling since Katrina. It's been vacant. There is a developer that has recently purchased it, planning to do offices and residential, but it's relying on historic tax credits. It will not be available because it's part of that pipeline that nobody appreciated. The Edison Walthall, again, a project in Jackson, will be 100 units. They've done demo, they have financing, but the project is likely to stop because they're going to be short of capital again, because in the capital stack, the historic tax credit component is about 25% of the cash equity or 10% of the project cost. And I know I'm hitting y'all with a lot of facts, but unfortunately that's part of this. The Sears building, Greenville, it's at a standstill as well. So it's really impacting things throughout the state, projects everywhere, because you've got projects in Fulton, you've got projects in Water Valley, you've got projects in Meridian, you've got projects here in Hattiesburg that are on a standstill. I mean, it is truly a statewide issue. For whatever reason, that slide, there we go. The Lamar Life, again, a project in Jackson. It's supposed to be residential. It may be an office building, but it has been vacant for a long time. It's in terrible shape. And that one was actually built by Overstreet, a well-renowned architect, and the father of Eudora Realty was the president of Lamar Life when it was actually constructed. Here's a picture of Water Valley. Everybody knows about what's going on there. Great things have happened to their downtown. They've got about 3 or 4 buildings that are underway or in the works in different levels. There's no funding at the state tax credit level for those. This is across from the King Edward. It was just in the newspaper last week. It's gotten Section 42 credits for that, but no historic credits. Again, it's going to be about 31 lost, and that's just a dilapidated block right across from the King Edward that clearly needs to be rehabbed. And the last slide you're going to see is one of the projects that slid in under the $60 million cap. Great project in Vicksburg, Carr Junior High. You had the First National Bank in Vicksburg, Carr Junior High, a project in Brookhaven, and one other project in Churchill, which is a plantation that all slid under. Really, those are the projects that ate up the last portion of that $60 million. And that's why we do it. That's my grandkids. And that's the expression you want to see when you get a project complete. Thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but that breaks my heart. And if there's one thing that we take away from our gathering tonight and our conference is what are we going to do about it? You know, we have a voice, and we can talk to our elected officials and let them know we care about issues like this. So we've got to do a better job with that. Amber, you ready? Okay, next up is Amber Lombardo, Collierville, and MHT North.
I'm the owner of Webb's Advertising and publisher of Tour Carnival magazine in Tennessee. It's right outside of Memphis, and we've had the privilege of doing work with MHT for many years now, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I admitted earlier that I hadn't set my timer, so I had to have him. Okay, I'm guilty. Okay. Oh, you're taking my time. Okay, this was my place growing up. We grew up in a farm. The barn was our hanging out place, the boathouse. You know, it was simple. We were kids exploring, learning our multiplication tables. These are my grandparents and my dad. And that was their first house. It was built by my grandparents. And, you know, we weren't fancy people. We were country people, Clark County. But my grandfather built that house, and they were preservationists of a sort. They reused everything, and probably including clothes. But they lived very simply. This is the next house that my grandparents built because tornadoes would come through Clark County too frequently. So you can see cinder block construction was next. And, you know, it was because they built these things by hand that I learned to appreciate the way that things are constructed. Now, the next slide is the home that I spent most of my growing up in. And, you know, because we were simple people, we didn't pay a lot of attention to our architecture, but we sure loved our cars. You know, so my dad was very proud of that thing. My sister was born around 1964, and Dad had a friend who came to him and said, I've got a great idea. That friend right there, my dad said, I just had a baby, I can't afford to invest with you. So, my dad went to work for that man and worked for him for many years. Hartley Peavy with Peavy Electronics. The amplifier was his idea that Dad wouldn't invest in. So this was another place where I grew up, Peavy's building, downtown Meridian. I would stomp around the building there in its old construction and play in the elevator. They had pops for 25 cents, and, you know, we got to meet musicians. It was a really fun way to grow up in the 70s. It was still about the cars. You know, for my parents, that's probably what they focused on the most. But, you know, look at that wonderful facade there. 1970s, well, I mean, the facade when I was there in the 70s. But that wonderful postmodern look, and that's it today. And that's why I'm here, is because of buildings like this. But I made a good friend, Karen Rooney, earlier today. She's the Main Street manager in Meridian, and she gave me an update about many of the buildings there. She said that they've had 40 new business licenses in 2014, 10 were long-term. I'll give you some more stats later. She filled me up. But these are my two kids and my husband. We do a lot of exploring, and that is what it's about, is being a kid and exploring. Now, whenever we look back on our own childhoods and we see our own places start to disappear, then we look at our children and we think about their places and how they stand to disappear. Now, that's the way they respond whenever I talk about going and looking at old buildings. Actually, Izzy's trying out shrimp for the first time, and Ella's saying, I'm not having any of that. So I had to make new friends since they, get kind of grumpy sometimes. Susan, my good friend, Susan Hicks, looking good, and Annette Weiss at MS Mod. MHT has been a lot of fun to get to know. This was at the Moriarty home that was open to us by Risa and Jack. MHT has brought a lot of intrigue into my profession, Governor Winter being one of them there at the Falk House. Lolly, just a flurry of energy there with him. She said, I probably didn't hush the whole time. I said, I don't think you did. But the Mad Mod Affair Eastover toured this home. The architecture was W.W. Easley. It's 1959, built for Joseph and Genevieve Falk. And his style is much like Mies van der Rohe. John Hooks was very nice to open up his home to us. And there again, postmodern architecture starts to build inside of the awareness of people who normally look at preservation as being about his, very Victorian architecture. Now, this is another friend I made, a couple of friends, Chevis Sweatman and his wife, Marcia. He's the CEO and president of People's Bank in Biloxi. And whenever I started the Save My Place project with MHT, he was one of our very first interviews. His home was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. I believe it's the second one from the left there. But whenever Hurricane Katrina came through, he decided that he was going to try to ride it out and ultimately decided to leave. Well, he cared about his home because it was his grandfather's home, O.G. Sweatman. He shared with me a story about his grandfather, that his house had been destroyed by a fire, and the insurance company had sent them a $1,000 check to cover the cost of it. And he had never received a $1,000 check, so he kept it, put it in his pocket for many, many months, didn't cash it. Well, his wife would continually harass him. She finally talked him into it. Those are pictures through the reconstruction in Katrina. Well, so he finally cashed the check, and the insurance company went out of business months later because of the Chicago fire. So we can appreciate what the Sweatmans have done in the wake of the destruction of Hurricane Katrina. And we hope that others do the same thing. Now here, my girl is obviously exploring the shoreline. But engaging and educating the next generation in whatever means it takes to get their attention, I think is so very important. Because when we reiterate the message in the same ways, it suddenly isn't heard anymore. This is Martha's Vineyard. We're on a haunted house tour, and these girls, for the first time, are stopped in their tracks staring at architecture. Now, it's because they think that there is a ghost that's going to appear on that porch. And I told them that if they misbehave, that it probably would, or at least it might follow us home. Now, this is me in the Cedar Oaks in Oxford taking photography. This is the privilege of my life, of my profession. I am truly blessed to be able to go out and explore these places as a kid and tell these stories for people like you. And I appreciate you having me tonight.
That was so inspirational. Thank you. I think on that note, I'm going to have another cocktail. What do y'all think? Let's take a short break and fill back up, and then we'll get started again. Next up, Attorney Matthew McLaughlin is going to light your world on fire, talking about beer. Well, heck yeah. Take it away.
Hello, how are y'all this evening? Thank you for having me. I'm Matthew McLaughlin. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Baker Donaldson in Jackson. And I chair our craft brewery and craft distillery industry service team. And in the interest of full disclosure, I've spoken on all of these topics that I'm going to talk about in my presentation and have done so in much larger formats. So the lawyers in the room would probably agree the thought of speaking for 6 minutes on a topic is frightening when we get paid to talk and get paid by the hour. So anyway, I'm going to talk about an interesting topic. I'm going to try to connect some dots that may not be as obvious to you all, but it's obvious to me because it's what I do on a daily basis. And I'm going to talk about creative placemaking, the craft beer industry, and economic development. All right, creative placemaking has been defined as shaping the physical and social characteristics of a neighborhood, town, city, or region around the arts and cultural activities. Intentionally integrating the arts into the aesthetic and physicality of a location can positively impact a neighborhood and a community. It leads to collaboration, it leads to inclusiveness, and it leads to a heightened sense of community. One of the most common manifestations of creative placemaking is public art projects, as is evidenced by this mural in the Midtown neighborhood in Jackson. This mural symbolizes the rebirth of the Midtown neighborhood and the resurgence of the creative class and residents and business owners that live and work there. It still serves as a self-identifying gateway to the neighborhood.
Where is it?
It's in the Midtown neighborhood.
I know, where?
Where's the Mills at?
The Midtown neighborhood is in Jackson, Mississippi, and it is, okay, Mill Street, it's, if you can see it from Mill Street, but it's like Mill and a dell.
Go ahead. I don't want
Okay. This mural, likewise, this mural was a public art project in the Fondren neighborhood in Jackson. So this is a very self-identifying visual image of Fondren. You see this from the Sneaky Bean, which is a locally owned coffee shop. And that whole area, if you're familiar with Jackson, the Fondren neighborhood, has gotten to be a very, very popular place for younger people that are buying the older houses there and living and working. Other traditional examples of creative placemaking include concert and outdoor festivals similar to the ones that are held in Fondren and in Dooling Hall. This is Dooling Hall at night. Dooling Hall is a historic preservation project that sits at the epicenter of the vitality that is going on in the Fondren neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that is embracing its past and is moving headstrong into the future. And while public art projects and activities centered around musical and visual arts are deeply moving, I believe the definition of creative placemaking can be broadened both in definition and in scope. I believe that creative placemaking does mean shaping the physical and social characteristics of a neighborhood, town, or city or region, but not only with the arts and cultural activities, but through creative entrepreneurial processes and applications, all of which can catalyze inclusive community and economic development. Creative placemaking provides unique opportunities for people to live and work in highly creative and collaborative communities, as is indicative of what's going on in Midtown and Fondren and other parts of Jackson, and really in other parts of the state. But I believe there are less traditional forms of artistic expressions that play an equally important role in creative making and can catalyze community and economic development in different ways. An industry that symbolizes the impact of a creative process and application in the context of creative placemaking is the craft beer industry. This is an industry that can have a transformative impact on a local community, and we have some wonderful examples of this all throughout Mississippi. In the Kill and down in Hancock County, Lazy Magnolia sources local ingredients, combines them in a very unique manner, and creates an amazing Mississippi-made product that is exported all throughout the United States. Lazy Magnolia has literally created the craft beer industry in Mississippi, being in business for over 10 years, and is writing what I consider to be a new chapter in the creative economy in Mississippi, all while creating a very unique sense of place in the Kill. This is an image from the 10-year anniversary party that they had a couple of weeks ago. So if you can imagine between 800 and 900 people going to a rural part of Hancock County to spend a Friday night and listen to the founders discuss the process that they've been through for the last decade, and listen to live music and eat locally made food and drink Lazy Magnolia products, all in this very community-rich environment, it becomes the essence of creative placemaking. Another example of the craft beer industry influencing placemaking is Lucky Town Brewing Company in Jackson. Lucky Town Brewing Company, this is an image of the indoor of their facility before they did construction, chose to adaptively reuse an old Greyhound bus station for its home. The net result has been a deep embrace by a widely diverse neighborhood and a physical space that has become a local meeting place for Jacksonians and tourists coming through the area on craft beer tours. This is an image from their grand opening back in November. At this grand opening, there were nearly 1,000 people from Jackson and the surrounding areas, neighborhood residents. It was an unbelievably diverse group of people, young, old, black, white, men, women, children, some people experiencing their first taste of craft beer, and some craft beer aficionados. Again, creating an unbelievable sense of place in the Midtown community. Craft breweries also play a critical placemaking role in preserving our past. This is an image of Yellowbusha Brewing Company's building in Water Valley. They rehabilitated the old Hendricks Machine Shop, a building that was built in the 1860s on Water Valley's Main Street. It's already been mentioned, but the progress and everything positive that's going on in Water Valley is well documented, and that community has received national acclaim for its historic preservation and placemaking efforts. This is Pat and Lisa Miller, the co-founders of Natchez Brewing Company, which is a small nano brewery in Natchez. They're converting an old historic building in downtown Natchez into a modern nano brewery. They're focusing on a highly localized product for a highly localized market, capturing all of that wonderful history that Natchez has, but also manufacturing a product that is bringing Natchez forward. The unique Mississippi craft brewery stories are only a small piece of a much larger movement within the United States, and one that is happening all over the country. A significant percentage of craft breweries are choosing to locate in older, once industrialized area and historic buildings, repurposing space and becoming integral pieces to a larger community development effort. Craft breweries provide communities a unique value proposition because the creative process and business model associated with such, not only is innovative and entrepreneurial, but also creates jobs, a manufactured exportable product, and become a tourism draw. Craft breweries become placemaking catalysts for inclusive community development efforts. Here's an example outside of Mississippi. This is Yazoo Brewing Company in Nashville, which is located in an area called the Gulch. And this neighborhood has gone through a complete transformation, and a lot of it has been led by the investment of the founders of this brewery. Avondale in Birmingham is another similar story. An older neighborhood that had fallen on harder times is now experiencing a revitalization, much of which has been led by the location of Avondale Brewing Company. Interestingly enough, the founders of Avondale in Birmingham and one of the founders of Yazoo are both from Mississippi. And there's a real significant reason why they're making product in other states and not here, but that's for another time. This has ultimately led to further organic development as more people have begun moving into these neighborhoods and local businesses have popped up. And the creative placemaking that is triggered by the craft beer industry can lead to more transformative economic development projects and clustering. So you start to see the impact of one, and it sort of turning a community around as they grow, and as more market participants come into the location. You start to see some real significant economic development efforts. This is an image of the Oscar Blues trolley in Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville, North Carolina was fortunate enough to land the East Coast operations of Oscar Blue, New Belgium, and Sierra Nevada a couple of years ago. Competitively bid out RFP process, and these three breweries, independent of one another, chose to locate their East Coast operations in Asheville, North Carolina for a number of reasons. But there was an existing craft beer ecosystem there. There was a very, very, very significant and meaningful arts community, and a community that really was embracing creativity and creative processes. So Asheville has essentially developed an entire ecosystem around the craft beer industry. This is a shot of Richmond, Virginia, which is soon to be the site of Stone Brewing Company, which is a brewery out in San Diego, California, that put out a competitive RFP a year ago. Mississippi had a couple of communities that submitted a proposal, but they ultimately chose Richmond. This is down on the riverfront in Richmond, and what you are seeing right now is ultimately going to be a $72 million investment that leads to the creation of 300 jobs in what was once a very blighted area and not very attractive. So that's my last slide. It's my contact information. This is something that I am deeply passionate about. I feel very fortunate and blessed to work daily with the creative people that operate in this space, both in Mississippi and in other parts of the Southeast. It's an industry that we are lagging woefully behind our sister states and other states throughout the country. And just spending some time and visiting these businesses, whether you drink beer or not, you will see the impact that they are having on their communities. Many of you in this audience tonight, with Mickey being from Water Valley and people that live in Hattiesburg and know of Southern Prohibition, that have ever visited those locations know firsthand that these are cool, they're hip, it's job creation, and it's a significant investment of capital in both equipment and land. So it's nothing but positive for the state of Mississippi. That's all I got. Thanks.
Beer reservation. Definitely matchmaking. Our next speaker is LaToya Norman. You ready, LaToya? LaToya's already been a big part of our conference. She hosted us at her beautiful museum today, the African American Military History Museum, and we had some fantastic food and great conversation there. So thank you for being a part of tonight.
Thank you. I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is LaToya Norman, and I'm the manager at the African American Military History Museum. And today I want to do my presentation on the museum and the way we preserve history. This is a picture of our historic USO. An important component of preservation is knowing the history of your historic property. This building was once, like I said, it was a home away from home for African American servicemen that were stationed at Camp Shelby. The building, after it was a USO, after the war ended, it became a community center. It was a community center for quite a while, and then it was a school. Head Start held classes there, and as you can see, it changed over time. And then after the C. Roy Community Center opened in 1972, the building sat in disrepair. There's a group of committee members, now known as the African American Military History Museum Committee, knew the significance of this building and rallied to have it saved. And so this is a picture of the Convention Commission, the City of Hattiesburg, and members of the African American Military History Museum Committee at the groundbreaking. 2009, we celebrated our grand reopening. We celebrated our grand opening. Over 700 people visited. We had so much support from the community, and it opened as a military museum that chronicles African Americans in the military. In 2013, an EF4 tornado swept through Hattiesburg and just broke my heart when I walked in and saw this building for the first time, but it damaged the museum and we had to close for about a year. The good thing that happened from that, we had a year to think about how we could come back bigger and better. And this is a picture from our grand reopening. We decided to re-honor World War II veterans. And what happened at this particular celebration, these veterans shared so many stories. And at this point, we decided that we need to gather their oral histories and get it on video and to preserve those stories. In the meantime, as we were gathering those stories, we still had several events. We always want to be a resource to the community and also to the military. This is a change of command ceremony. Someone contacted us from Camp Shelby and said, hey, we want to have a change of command ceremony. And we said, of course, we love to utilize our building in that way. This is a picture. This is the first time we had a program called Museum where we invited children from the neighborhood to come in with their costumes, play games. That's me dressed as Lena Horne. We went back to the 1940s. That's Mr. Eddie McGowan. He dressed as B.B. King. And that's his granddaughter looking at him like, what's going on? This is our oral history kiosk. We unveiled it on Veterans Day. We have approximately 13 stories, but Bernadette, she's here. We worked really hard on this project. It's kind of our brainchild. We were trying to, it's about 3 minutes that you see on the of their stories, but we worked really hard to pick the best. This is Miss Juanita Reed. She's a USO girl that used to come to the USO, and she was named 316 Ordnance Ammunition Company pinup girl. So we have her story, and she talked about how excited she was to receive that recognition. What's funny, if you look at those two girls in the corner, they don't look very happy about her getting that kind of recognition. This is Miss Mary Agnes Bell. She's a World War II WAC. Our president, Colonel Sheila Vornado, introduced us to her, and we were so excited to get her story. Like I said, she was a nurse during World War II. This is a picture of us celebrating her 100th birthday. This is Mr. Richard Watts. He's from Hattiesburg. He enlisted in the Navy. And I asked him, I said, why did you enlist? He said, because he wanted to get away and he wanted a better life. He used his GI Bill to further his education and became a doctor. He practiced in Chicago and he later practiced in Hattiesburg. This is to the left, Mr. Albert Hopkins. He was a part of a tank battalion. He was a gunner. He received a Purple Heart. You can't see it from this photograph, but he actually lost his eye, his hearing in his right ear, and his hand. He had some issues with that, but he has such a great personality, and he said he wouldn't trade his service for anything. This is Mr. Eddie Barnes. He's a veteran that we met at a Christmas open house, and we got his story. He was a truck driver during World War II, and he talked about how they would have to drive at night to deliver supplies to the front line. This is a picture of Mr. Eddie with his wife and their firstborn. And the reason we have this picture, one story that sticks out is that he said that when he first met his wife, he knew she was the one. And they recently celebrated their 68th anniversary. So we thought that was really, really nice. This is Mr. Needham Jones. What's great about interviewing these veterans is that they come over and over and over again, so we're very fortunate. He was a Tuskegee Airman. He was a ground mechanic, and he talks about his time in service. And we asked him about USOs and what would he find at a USO, and he talked about the pies and the entertainment, and Lena Horne was one person that he mentioned. This guy, Mr. Willie Johnson, he enlisted in the Navy at the age of 15. He lied about his age, and he said that he just wanted to help his mom. I thought that was a very moving story, but he was one of the veterans that comes to the museum very often. He recently passed away, so we're very fortunate that we took on this project and that we now have his story to share for years to come. This gentleman is featured with the students. He was a part of the 761st Tank Battalion, which is the first African-American tank battalion to see combat. So we have his story. He was recently in December awarded the French Legion of Honor. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, and his last request was that those medals be donated to our museum, so we have that in our collection. This is a picture of the USO lobby from the 1940s. The reason we wanted to have the kiosk in the lobby is because we could imagine the soldiers and USO girls sitting around the fireplace sharing their story. This is the last slide. This is a USO club. This is from our USO, a bulletin of events that would take place. And the museum, the USO was a place not just for soldiers, but also a place for civilians. They offered movie nights for children. They offered typewriting classes that were for soldiers and children. And at the very bottom of it, it says, "The soldier's home, you are welcome." So that's our motto. It's the soldier's home, but everybody's welcome. And that's just our way of preserving their history. Thank you.
The Toy Museum is a very inspiring place. Thank you for sharing with us. Myrna, you ready? Myrna Smith-Thompson is going to talk with us about Mount Bayou and why it's great to get up to the Delta.
I'm a grandmother, and I'm always pestering my children and anybody else's children about getting involved with historic preservation. It's a part of our heritage. Proverbs are part of African culture. Tonight I'm going to, because I talked so much, they laughed and rolled on the floor when I told them what I was going to try to do. That Lolly told me, I'm going to do 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide. Impossible, Mama, they said. So I'm going to use African proverbs and try to get the message across, because African proverbs do have deep, long messages in short sentences. The path to the chief's house should not grow grass. This is the house of the founder of the city of Mount Bayou, Isaiah Thornton Montgomery. Okay. Mount Bayou is located in the northern part of Mississippi in the Delta, about 100 miles from Memphis 100 miles south of Memphis, 32 miles from Clarksville. Somebody asked me, 8 miles from Cleveland. I'm working with Knights and Daughters of Tabor. Knights and Daughters of Tabor was a fraternal organization that in 1942 built the Taborian Hospital. The founder of Knights and Daughters of Tabor said, and the theme under which that organization functioned for years is what one man cannot accomplish. Oh, what did I do? Many men united can. Did I click a lot? It's on automatic. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I'm on a timer. When the beat of the drum check, when a reed dries up, another one grows in its place. The Taborian Hospital, before it was renovated, it was built in 1942, but in 2014, I could go on. My grandfather built the hospital. I was born at that hospital. And this time last year, we opened the Taborian Hospital. The eyes that have seen an ocean cannot be satisfied with a mere lagoon. We're back. This hospital is equipped as an urgent care center. A changed place transforms an individual, but a transformed individual can change a place. Isaiah T. Montgomery and his wife, Martha Robb Montgomery, were statesmen in the state of Mississippi. In 1890, he was the only African American to attend the Constitutional Convention. To him who has never traveled, a small garden is a big forest. We have traveled. I.T. Montgomery was an ex-slave who founded a community that boasted businesses, independence, and self-sufficiency for African Americans in the state of Mississippi. 1900, this is the 1900 home of an African American statement. What the eyes have seen, the heart cannot forget. This is one of the most stately homes in the community. It sits off Highway 61. You can't pass through the town without seeing it. It served as the housing for the Taborian Hospital that opened in 1942. The hospital was opened from 1942 to 1983. Doctors and nurses who came from Meharry Hospital in Nashville stayed in this house. Character is like pregnancy. You can't hide it for long. The I.T. Montgomery home is a national landmark since 1976 and a Mississippi landmark in 2003. At the crossroads, you cannot go both directions at the same time. It's either important that we restore it or it's not a national landmark. As you do your ancestors, your children will do for you. We must save the I.T. Montgomery house. And I have time, I have extra time, I can't believe I have extra time. In danger of closing this important piece of our cultural heritage, we've been working for a long time to get the I.T. Montgomery house restored. We understand to stumble is not to fall, but to go forward faster. It's deteriorating fast now. We must do something right away. If you're building a house and the nail breaks, do you stop building or do you change the nail? We are open to all suggestions and assistance for making sure that the home of our founder is restored, a major part of the history of Mississippi. We want to honor our ancestors and cultural heritage at the I.T. Montgomery. We desire to bequeath two things to our children. The first one is their roots, and the other is wings. This is the vision for what we want to have. We want it to be restored. It's going to be a visitor center with student housing, a cyber cafe and research center on the first floor, a museum that tells the story of Montgomery. He had a full living room and dining room in which he entertained politicians. This will tell the story about all of the things that Isaiah T. Montgomery, who reigned in the same era as Booker T. Washington, but was in Mississippi and not quite well known. Wonderful stories, and each year at least 50 political scientists come through to at least look at the house. It's right there in the middle of town, in the middle of the recently named National Historic District that the city of Mound Bayou is. It's very in close proximity to the new urgent care center at the Borean Hospital. Every year we have one festival in September called September Fest. It's hosted right in front of the Montgomery House. If you look over on the community picture, it's right there. You could see all the activities are right in front of the house. That's the Cyber Cafe up top. When the roots of a tree begin to decay, it spreads death to the branches. Restoring the IT Montgomery House is preserving our roots and our heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna. If you'd like to be a part of the discussion tomorrow, we're going to do IT Montgomery House as one of our case studies as part of the conference to look at new ways to getting to the finish line. And thank you for that inspirational story. We want to come visit the restored IT Montgomery House soon. So we're going to finish our Pecha Kucha tonight with Sheila Varno. And I think that's fitting because this is her town. If you've read her bio, this is a lady who believes Hattiesburg can be the best that it can be and is setting about doing it one building at a time.
Well, thank you all for letting me come and speak to you. I think she's being far more generous than what I deserve. I am a transplant, actually, to Hattiesburg. I'm a retired Army colonel. And when I retired from the Army, my husband was here, so I thought I'd come back home and join him. And at my retirement ceremony, I said something crazy about I want to give back to the community, and I have learned the words you speak, the Lord will give you an opportunity to fulfill those words. So just be careful what you speak. And so I never saw myself as a preservationist. I mean, in the Army, wherever they throw you, you just make do. But through that experience, what I learned was when events happen, then you make a plan and you do whatever is needed. And what happened in our community, much like much of the state of Mississippi, or certainly the southern part of it, was Hurricane Katrina. And so really this story stems from Hurricane Katrina. Won't come up? Is it okay? Yeah, it's fine. The story stems from Hurricane Katrina. And so the building that you see there, the two-story building, that's the volunteer house. We finally refer to it as that. And that building, that's the way it looked when we first received the building, or actually secured the building. It was over 100 years old and needed repair from top to bottom, inside and out. And I wanted to say and ask if any of you know Miss Barbara. Well, I'm sure you probably don't. Miss Barbara was on our board of directors. I was the executive director for our 3SM. And Miss Barbara said, because we were looking for a place, and Miss Barbara said about a year before we even secured this place, you ought to look at that two-story building on the corner of Bushman and River in downtown Hattiesburg. Well, we looked at Miss Barbara like she was crazy. And we didn't say anything. You know how it is when somebody says something you just think is off the rocks, and you don't say anything. But I'll tell you, a year later, we ended up right where Miss Barbara had said we should go. And so this is the building that we secured, over 100 years old, 10,000 square feet. And we secured it because of a need. We needed to house volunteers who came into our community after Hurricane Katrina. And what I found was people were more than willing to come into a community and help you. But the very first question they asked was, do you have someplace for us to stay? And usually the answer was really no, but I never said no. I just said, oh yes, we do. And then I'd scramble trying to find someplace for them to stay. And so this whole endeavor came out of the need to be able to house volunteers. And so that was the vision that we had all along and that we worked from. Because we're a 501c3 organization, we were a United Way agency, we were able to get our original seed money through a grant from the United Way of America. And so that allowed us to go searching for a place. We did that, we got the house, you saw how it looked on the outside. Also because we're 501c3, and that's me, by the way, in that picture in that little hazmat suit. But inside and out, first we had to haul all the garbage out, so that's what you see these young people doing, pulling stuff out, putting it on the curb. And then the building had to be scraped and all kinds of things. But I'll tell you, we were able to do this because of all of the fantastic volunteer labor that we received. AmeriCorps, NCCC, once we presented the idea to them, they stuck with us through the entire process. We had faith-based organizations who were coming into our community. Once we were able to even minimally stay in the house, they started staying in the house and working in the house at the same time. And so this became for us both a labor of love, but something a little short of a miracle, because no one ever thought we would pull it off. This is what the building starts to look like after we've done all of the work. We had to replace all of the windows, all of the doors. We had to level the building. We really had to strip it out, inside and out. We, of course, had to work with the Historic Commission here in Hattiesburg, but everybody was so supportive of what we were doing. Certainly the community that the building sits in, because I think they thought there's nothing any worse that you all could do to it than what has already been done. I was told that it was built as a boarding house and used by people on the railroad. It sits directly across from the historic Hattiesburg Depot, which they have renovated very nicely. So they were happy to see us do something with this building. But originally for the railroad, but it had been things like a flop house, a drug house. So they were really happy to see us come in and do something with it. That's the way it's starting to look now on the at that time on the inside, because literally we had to take it down to the studs and then bring it back. And of course we reconfigured it for the purpose that we wanted to use it. So our local downtown architect, I like to call him, he worked with us and helped us to reconfigure the inside of the building, which we could do. We couldn't change or alter the outside of the building because it was historic in nature, but they allowed us to do what we wanted on the inside. That's what it looks like finished. The bottom picture is the large kitchen, the top picture is the dining room. And so we took something and that is the picture finished, our couples suite. Not all of the rooms look like that or furnished that way. Basically, they're bunk rooms with bunk beds in them, sleeping as many people as possible. But there are a couple of rooms that look like that for couples who may come in and want to stay a long time. The bathrooms for those who are in the bunk rooms, bathrooms are on one end of the building, 2 bathrooms that look identical, one for men, one for women, 3 toilet stalls, 3 shower stalls, and then 4 sinks that you'll see coming up. But we try to make it as efficient as possible. We can sleep as many as 60 people in there at one time. And of course, a lot of this is my military mind now, or just cram as many in as you can. But we have slept that many in that building, so it's no longer something that I made up in my mind. We actually have done it. And so that's more of what the building looks like today after the renovation. But I will say we got a lot of support from the community. A lot of our funding, our major funding, came from 2 foundations, the Asbury Foundation and the Mississippi Power Foundation. And then locally, we also had people who contributed. But it was a community effort, and I thank you.
evening. I'm so lucky to get to do what I do and get to be here with y'all all tonight. And you thought the evening was almost over, but the folks next door at the Skylight Lounge have opened up just for us tonight. So if you want a cocktail after this evening, you can wander next door. And we're going to continue this conversation there. So if you're not already a member of the Mississippi Heritage Trust, we want you as a member. We want you to be a part of this conversation going forward. And thank you all so much for being here tonight.